You're still watching in TVC News at 1. Let's turn attention to business now. The Nigerian Employers Consultative Association is asking for a new national minimum wage by the Tripartite Committee on National Minimum Wage to prioritize job creation and job security, given the increasing rate of unemployment in the country. The association says the private sector can't meet the Nigerian Labour Congress 500,000 minimum wage demand this year or anytime soon in light of Nigeria's economic problems. NECA, in a statement by the Director General, Mr. Adewale Oyeride, said it's committed to 57,000 naira proposal for the private sector, which he said represents a 90% increase in the national minimum wage. The Director General affirmed that NECA will continue to support workers' welfare and job protection, emphasizing that these can only be ensured through the survival of enterprise, while highlighting the urgent need to address the rising unemployment rate in the country. Latest international payment data from the Central Bank of Nigeria shows that letters of credit issued by banks for the importation of goods dropped by $204.47 million in the first quarter of 2024. This represents a decrease of 62.7% compared to $549.22 million for the same quarter in 2023. The development showed a significant decrease in Nigeria's international trade and financial transactions. The report also showed letters of credit payment fell to $43.54 million in March compared to $269.49 million reported in March 2023. Elsewhere, the Nigerian Shippers Council has affirmed government's drive to diversify the shipping sector and attract investment, particularly in boosting rail connectivity to reduce business costs at ports. Executive Secretary Mr. Pius Akota emphasized his commitment during a recent tour of Eastern Port. Details in this report.
During the tour, Mr. Pius Akota and members of the Council's management team inspected key port facilities, including Boa Port Terminal, One Multipurpose Terminal, and West Africa Container Terminal. Discussions at this site underscored the Council's dedication to fulfilling government directives on economic diversification, with a strong emphasis on port automation to optimize processes and minimize human intervention.
We have seen the kind of investment that is here is a huge investment. And all we need to do is to see how we can facilitate the economic realities of this investment to bear on the Nigerian economy. So when we automate our systems and everything is being programmed that way, I believe that most of this human contact will reduce. And we are not going to drive anybody out of the port, but we enhance the quality of automations, both from the private sector engagement and the public sector engagement. And once that is done, it reduces that physical contact.
Engaging with stakeholders, Mr. Akuta highlighted the importance of collaboration in addressing challenges faced by businesses operating in the ports, assuring continued government support for infrastructure development.
As a regulator for the sector, we seek to work with the stakeholders and all the service users, the service providers and the users in the sector to enhance the efficiency of what is going on so that business will grow in Nigeria. The president has given the marching order because without having a renewed port, we may not be able to achieve the mandate for which Mr. President has given us to drive the economy in this direction. So there are plans on the way, and the minister is working around the clock to see how these plans come to bear on the port systems in Nigeria.
Furthermore, Mr. Akuta advocated for legislative adjustments to enhance the Nigerian Shippers Council's role in regulating shipping and port economics. Ifunanya Eze, TVC News.
Now, Nigeria Asian shares firmed up today as investors brace for a busy run of inflation data that could set the scene for European rate cuts as soon as next week and the U.S. policy easing within just a few months. MSCI's Products Index of Asia Pacific shares outside Japan gained 0.6%, having slipped 1.5% last week and away from a two-year peak. Taiwan stocks reached a record, having climbed more than 7% for the month so far on a wave of tech bullishness. Japan's NECA rose 0.5% and ahead of a reading on Tokyo consumer price. Later in the week, Chinese blue chips firmed by 0.4%, with a major release this week being the surveys of manufacturing and services for May. Euro Stoxx 50 futures eased 0.1%, while trading FTSE futures was closed. S&P 500 futures dipped 0.1%, as did Nasdaq futures. And now China has set up its third planned state-backed investment fund of 344 billion yuan. That's about 47.5 billion US dollars to boost its semiconductor industry. This is the largest of the three funds launched by the China Integrated Circuit Industry Investment Fund, known as the Big Fund, to achieve self-sufficiency for China in semiconductor. This commitment has taken on renewed urgency after U.S. imposed a series of export control measures over the last couple of years, citing fears Beijing could use advanced chips to boost its military capabilities. The third phase of the China Integrated Circuit Industry Investment Fund was officially launched and established on May 24 and registered under the Beijing Municipal Administration for Market Regulation. And Fiat owners Stellantis is expected to announce a hybrid version of its 500e small electric car to be produced at its Mirafiori plant in Italy. The announcement is expected at a meeting scheduled in Turin between CEO Carlos Tavares and unions, which have been asking for a new high-volume, cheaper model for Mirafiori news output. Global Newsroom in sales of fully electric vehicles has pushed Stellantis to significantly slow production rate, introducing protracted furlough period for the plant's workers. Experts say this might help the car maker improve the relationship between Italian government, which has often been criticized, the group for it falling out in the country and for making some of it Fiat and Alfa Romeo models abroad. And in the crude oil space, prices steadied in Asian trading earlier today as market awaited an OPEC Plus meeting on June 2, where producers are expected to discuss maintaining voluntary output cut for the rest of the year. U.S. West Texas Intermediate rose to sell at $77.90 per barrel, with an upsurge of 0.23%. Brent crude futures also experienced an upward price review of 0.17%, selling at $82.26 a barrel. And Bonny Light recorded an upward price margin of 0.17%, selling at $80.95 per barrel. And for the OPEC basket now, crude oil dealers are offering $82.41 per barrel, with a price decline of 1.03%.